My thing is to keep with it, no matter how obscure, no matter how far off it may seem. If you have a goal, you can attain it. As long as you put your mind to it and you put the time in, what you put into things is what you get out. And that's what I tell my kids all the time. If you don't put in any effort, you're not going to get anything out of it. You have to spend the time, you have to put it in, and think big. Don't keep yourself narrow. You never know what's going to come down your path. You never know who you're going to meet along the way. You never know what meeting is going to turn into something else. And it's happened to me.
Hey, everybody. It is another week, and that means another week of Leaders Talk. I am your intrepid host, Andrew Dupie, Chief Relationship Officer here at Leaders Press. And joining us today is Kathleen Humel. Kathleen Humel is the CEO of RX Hummel. And what does that mean? So I know you're in prescription pharmaceuticals. What is it that you do that is interesting and different?
So I'm a pharmacist by background, and I just want to say thank you for having me on today, Andrew. I appreciate the opportunity.
It's a pleasure.
It's RX just stands for prescription, right? In my pharmacy world, and K Hummel is my first initial and my last name, and it just really was a quick name that I came up with for my small little pharmaceutical industry consulting company when I switched from working in the retail pharmacy world, which I did from when I was 15 years old. Until 2013, when I opened up this little company. I had worked for Schering-Plough for about 10 years. And I worked in the drug safety department. And I worked on adverse event reporting and standard operating procedure writing. And when I left Schering-Plough, I opened up this small little company and writing these standard operating procedures for the drug safety departments across pharma is what I do. And since I worked in the area for 10 years, actually processing the cases and seeing what comes in from the patients, I had a good background to help others to write these procedures in order to ensure that when pharmaceutical companies receive adverse event reports, that they get where they need to go so that the proper people can assess them and that the information can get back out to the people so that they know what's going on. And this is really on the forefront nowadays with everyone being interested in adverse events and what's going on and in the vaccine world and all that's gone on recently. So these words now make sense to people.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I mean, absolutely. That's something that now we're following, on an almost daily basis. And you're right. I think one of the things that we have demonstrated is how little most of us actually knew about what this world was like.
And it's out there and it's big. And when you report something or if you have an event and something goes on and it gets reported, it's important, and it's every single event is taken seriously, and there's a whole process end to end and timelines and everything that people have to meet in order for this to really make sense and get to the people that it needs to get to in order to assess it, so that if something happens, people need to know, okay, wait, we need to maybe put a pause on this and relook at it because X is happening to people.
Yeah, absolutely. And it sounds like you, at the right time, were able to take control of the thing that you had as your niche that you were good at and turn that into a business for yourself.
Well, what it is there's a lot of folks that do medical writing, operational procedure writing, but a lot of them are not pharmacists by background. I've been out there in the retail world. I've talked to patients. I've been at the bedsides. And I've done the case processing for pharma. And now I sit at the other side of the table and I know what the inspectors are looking for. I know what investigators are looking for. And I've done both sides. So when you hire a writer who's never done the job, it's a little different. It's always a little bit better if you have somebody that has been out there and has been in touch with the patients and been in touch with the cases and knows that background. It's easier for me to help them to get what they need.
Well, I mean, over the years, what you were able to do is on your own, you began to build your own basis and your own structure of authority within yourself. Yes.
Yeah, and that's what I was looking at as far as one of the topics for your conversations is
Mm,
it's the same in retail, it's the same in industry, it's the same everywhere you go. You have to get people to trust you, and
mhm.
you have to it's the same when you're in the store. You come in and fill your prescription, and there's no room for error in a pharmacy. You can't make a mistake. People do, it happens because we're human,
Yeah.
but there's a very small window of error in a pharmacy. You could kill someone. You have
Right.
to know what you're doing, and you have to have that level of trust. It's the same in my industry. So I do very little promotional marketing. Most of my jobs come from word of mouth. It's, oh, did you
Mm,
hear about Kathy? She does X. And, I don't have a lot of people that work for me. I have a couple of colleagues that are my go-tos that work with me all the time,
mm.
uh, including my brother, Tommy Rignola. We've been working together since I started it. I pulled him in and he never left. But what happens is we go from place to place, and, people see what we've done and hear what we've done, and they want us to help them. So that's really how it goes. You're only good as your word, as your product,
Mhm.
as your people can rely on you. If I say I'm going to get X done, they know I'm going to get it done, and get it done well.
Yeah. That's just how hard is it though to build that kind of visibility? Because I mean, you're starting in a crowded field. Already said
Mm-hmm.
there's others out there. So you already said beginning with this, you're already standing out because you're a pharmacist, which is different in your field. So how do you manage to communicate that to the larger audience that you have of your potential clientele?
I do have a website, and I list out my credentials, and
Mm.
most of the time, in fact, it's how I met you guys on LinkedIn. Was a
Yeah,
great
exactly.
method, that put us in touch. It just, that's one of the big players for me. I've gotten quite a bit of work on LinkedIn. And then it really is just word of mouth and my work sort of speaking for itself. Okay, we had an inspection, we had very little findings. All of our cases are, getting done. We have a process to follow.
Mm.
That's what you need. And that's what people go by. They want their patients safe. They want, when the inspectors come in, the first thing they ask for is the SOPs. So you want to show that you know what you're doing, and you want somebody behind that knows what they're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's like you say, it's building trust. And
Mm-hmm.
that's been a theme in quite a few of our podcasts that's really one of the central things you have to do. You have to create now a network of trust with the people that you interact with. So,
Yeah.
what ways have you been able to build trust with your clients while building your business?
You have to be there. You have to show up. You have to if you promise something, you have to deliver it. You can't, even if you're working 80-hour weeks, which I've done, you
Yeah.
have to deliver what you're asking. I mean, how many times have you called for a contractor or a painter? They don't show up. They're doing a shoddy job, or, you want to be able to get what you're paying for and build that delivery trust. When
Mhm.
I hand over a document, I don't give them garbage. I want to make sure that it suits them, it fits their need, and that they can rely on me. I let them know that, because sometimes they get worried if you have more than one client,
Yeah.
which is in the consulting world, that can happen. But I let them know that every client of mine is top billing, that no one's going to get less than someone else. I make sure that I only take on what I can handle. I don't overdo it so that I can't give you the best product, and I deliver what I intend to deliver. And a lot of my clients renew me because they like what they get. And, they want to be able to use what I'm giving them, and they see that it works. And that's how I also build that trust. It's just a continually delivering what they need. and being able to rely on someone is a big deal, in any element. When I was in the retail world, and you'd bring your child in and, they're screaming and crying and they have 104 fever, I put them to the top of the pile. They're getting out first, and that's what makes them come back. Oh, she took care of me when, my baby was screaming his head off and had 104 fever. That's how you bring them back.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I always had a saying that, good work begets good work. And that, it really, our business began off of that same concept of building up referrals and just doing well. Initially, it's like, let's make sure that that all our books come out right. We'll build the referrals, and that will kind of start the snowballing itself. So, that you start with that, but then you also manage to leverage things like LinkedIn to be able to bring attention to you that goes outside of your circles. So you've made that step. What kind of content do you put on platforms like LinkedIn to enhance your brand and enhance your visibility?
I do put my experience down, where I've been, and what you will get from me as far as a product. I put down my background, which I think for me helps me a lot, and it definitely gets me where I need to go. I've been in different elements of pharma, being in retail, being in hospital, being in nursing homes, being in industry. And I think that people want to see that they're hiring someone who's been around in all of these different areas and has seen that. And I think that that gives me some credibility. You don't want to hire someone that has no idea about what you're doing. That you want someone that's been there and that's done that and can give you some ideas and say, well, I've done it this way. I've seen it done this way. And then this way went really wrong. So you probably don't want to do that, and I think that helps me.
Yeah, that's being able to actually say that I've been out there and I've done the work on the ground. That goes so far with people, especially when you're doing what you're doing right now, where you're in the consulting world, because you've made the pivot from, the actual boots on the ground work now to being able to tell the lessons that you've learned. And some people are afraid to make that leap. So I think it's really good that you've been able to do that.
It was scary at first. I have to say, when I walked into the industry interview and the questions they had asked me, and I was very honest, and they said, well, did you ever, do this before? And I said, no, I never did. But, I know what a med watch looks like, and I know what the questions are. I know what the FDA is looking for. And the guy, my boss took a chance on me, and, it worked out really well.
Oh yeah, I mean, that's just it. You have to be able to know what you're able to do, and just be able to say, I can pivot and do this and take that next step. And I think in many cases we have people that prevent themselves from doing that just from imposter syndrome, say, why should I be the next person to make this leap into this business? And aren't there people that are already there that are more entrenched with me? So how did you overcome things like that? Maybe the little voices in the back of your head say, yeah, stay in your lane. Don't break out. You're just going to be competing with 100 other people like you.
Oh yeah, it was scary. And I have to tell you, I was intimidated, because you're walking into an area where you have people that have been doing this forever. And, you come in and nothing. And, you have to go right from the ground up, where in the retail world, I was experienced. I knew I could, handle the pharmacy retail world very well. And I knew what I was doing from when I was a kid. But industry was a whole nother bear. But you have to have some confidence in yourself, and you have to believe that you have the knowledge, you could do it, and you could learn just like anyone else. But you have to put your mind to it also. I did research, I studied. I was always a researcher and a studier. I had to, things didn't come easy to me. I would stay up late at night in college studying, and I did the same thing when I switched over to industry. I read the regulations. I learned, I dug down deep into it. I would study the SOPs, I mean, which is ridiculous, but it's another reason why I like doing that. people hate writing standard operating procedures. They have to do the job. They hate writing it, so that's also a little bit of a niche for me because people hate it. So, and I weirdly like it. So it works out for me.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Find that job everybody else hates, but that you love.
There you go. There it is in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Right? Everyone hates it.
Yeah.
They get on the meetings with me and say, how could you do this? We hate it. And I said, well, that's why I have a job.
Yeah. But I mean, and really what you did and what I hear a lot of people say that they did when they pivoted is that they went back and they began a learning process again. Mm-hmm. And that's just so much of what we do nowadays is either producing content for education or consuming content for education, because that's what we've become now is an educated based culture in business. Wouldn't you agree?
I do. And you have to have that background. And that's why I tell my kids too all the time, even though you may hate some elements of school, it's so important. And you have to educate yourself in this world to be able to stand on your own 2 feet, to be independent. You never know what life's going to throw your way. And you have to be able to, fight for yourself and know what you're doing and not worry about anyone else. And you have to be smart. And there's a lot of information out there, and you need to know how to interpret it and how to, decide for yourself how you want to live and what you want to believe and all that. So you need to have some knowledge, some background on a lot of different topics, just to be able to have a conversation and to, you never know where life's going to take you. So you need to be well-rounded.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of well-rounded, this is a topic that probably got some interest for our listeners, and that's going to be, you write a lot too with what you're doing within your business. Mm-hmm. And yeah, we have a lot of our listeners that are thinking about writing a book, that a book is in their future. So they're thinking to themselves, how do I run a business, run a company, and write a lot? I mean, I have enough trouble I can't fill my spreadsheets out on time. So, when I'm doing that and, I'm working my job, how is it that you were able to do that and continue to produce and write that kind of content at the same time?
You know what I do? I sit at night after my kids go to bed when it's quiet, and that's when I really write. That's when I sit and I take the time, whether I need to write a document for a client or work on a book or read a book of, that I want to read. That's when I sit at night when it's quiet. I have to do it when there's no distractions. Yeah. I can't sit at 10 o'clock in the morning when the phone is ringing, they just went out to school, the dog has to go out, and I have to have quiet. That's key for me. I need to be able to focus. And, you have to have that focus time for yourself, for what's important. And, if there's someone that has a thought or an idea, they shouldn't give up on it, because it may come to light for them at some point if they keep it up.
Well, and that's what we keep hearing so often on a lot of these episodes. I mean, yeah, we have some people that have had the same business since the very beginning, started themselves, but we have so many that have pivoted, like what you have done. We have so many that have success stories of just not listening to all the little voices that say, stay in your lane and hold back, and instead listening to the others. And there's so many successful ones out there. Right? And that's why I think what we do, it means so much to me, is that we're able to share a lot of these voices and a lot of these success stories with people. So, how are ways, and I know you got your website, LinkedIn, how are ways in which you are able to share with others your story, your personal story?
My personal story, well, it's just really by word of mouth, to be honest. And the website is big, and we're actually doing a whole renovation of the website. And that was one of the things that we wanted to do, because we wanted to make it more personal. We wanted to give people an opportunity if they wanted to submit an idea or a request, or they're looking for a job. So we want to modify my website. My website, everyone's on the internet. This is how they live today. We have something on Facebook. We have something on LinkedIn. And we deal with other consulting companies as well. And sometimes we kind of cross publish and promote each other because I work with other consulting companies who have strengths in other areas. So let's say they are based in regulatory affairs, but I'm based in drug safety. We look out for each other. And this is how another way that I get a lot of work is that they'll call me and say, listen, I can't do drug safety. We're working with this group. Can you take them? And we sort of take the projects together. So it's also networking with others in the industry who have strengths in other areas and see the strengths that I have, and we sort of tag team.
Yeah. And that's actually something that Leaders Press did when still today. I mean, not just when we were beginning and we were just building referral networks, but I mean, that's my day job when I'm not doing recordings is working with the joint ventures. And I think that's so important to understand that building those kind of joint venture networks, you know, when you did the right thing and you looked at your competition, not necessarily as competition, but just people in your field that may have different expertise. That's how I see other hybrid publishers. They're in our field, we have different expertise. So isn't that a good way to approach a business, is thinking about rather than who am I against, but what potential partners do I have out there?
Of course, you want them to be on your side. You don't want them to, you want them to say, hey, you know, she could help us with this, as opposed to me stealing the whole job. You know, I don't want the whole job. I want my piece that I do well. You do your piece well, and I'll do my piece well, and it's cohesive, and everybody's happy. Everybody makes some money. You know, that's everyone has bills to pay, right? Let's not forget about that part of it, and you know, it works well.
Yeah, I mean, and that's something that I think gets lost again a little bit too. It's just, you know, think about when you're a business person doing your day, how much money do you leave on the table by not necessarily having something to hand something off, a task off to. Like if you run into something that's not in your wheelhouse, but it's ancillary, and you just tell them, oh, hey, sorry, we don't do that, and show them the door, that's not as nice as being able to say, oh, hey, we don't do that, and show them the door with a referral in their hand that brings you money on the back end. Yes.
Definitely. And everybody's happy, right? And you know what? They'll call, even if you couldn't help them in that instance, they'll call you back again the next time, because they know even if you can't help them, maybe you know somebody who can. And eventually, maybe they give me something too. And that's happened. I've made a reference quite a few times to other people where I ended up getting nothing out of it. But at the end of the day, they had ultimately, oh, we do have something now for you. And they came back to me. So it goes full circle. You know, they remember you when you do something right for them.
Yeah. I mean, that's just so true. And I keep hearing these themes over and over again in the podcast, but it may seem like these are very common sense, easy to approach concepts, but you know, I run into all the time businesses that lose sight of a lot of these ideas and get lost in them and have to either rediscover them or never find them again.
Yeah, you have to look at the big picture. You can't think small. You have to think bigger. How is this going to affect me in the long run? Not the short run, because the short run is quick. How is it going to affect me in the long run?
Yeah, I agree completely. All right. Well, we've definitely got some good stuff in this, good material in this episode, but I want to hear from you one last thing before we start to wind down. I like to call it kind of a golden nugget moment here. What do you have that you haven't covered that may be of help for our audience who are right now? Many of them are coaches, many of them are salespeople. A lot of them are thinking about writing a book and building authority through attaching that to their business. What is your advice to those business people right now that's just golden nugget?
My thing is to keep with it, no matter how obscure, no matter how far off it may seem. If you have a goal, you can attain it. As long as you put your mind to it and you put the time in, what you put into things is what you get out. And that's what I tell my kids all the time. If you don't put in any effort, you're not going to get anything out of it. You have to spend the time, you have to put it in and think big. You know, don't keep yourself narrow. You never know what's going to come down your path. You never know who you're going to meet along the way. You never know what meeting is going to turn into something else. And it's happened to me a bunch of times. I was doing an audit and met people that took me down a whole nother road. And I was there, to audit them. So you never know what meeting or what opportunity will happen from something else. So I just say, keep going, keep at it, and just try your hardest, put in every effort. And you don't always win. There's going to be some failures, but learn from it. Take something out of every failure and turn it into something better next time, because you won't always win, but sometimes you do.
Wonderful. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Keep at it, and those victories will come. Kathy, I love it. This is great information for our audience. I appreciated having you. How can we find you? How can those out there that are listening find more information about you?
I do have my website, rxkhummel.com. I am on LinkedIn. We also have a Facebook page, and any of those methods, they can reach out and get to me.
Wonderful. And all those links are down below. Kathy, again, it was a pleasure, and we wish you the best in your endeavors.
Thank you so much. This was really fun. Thanks for having me.
Hey, bye.